Folks, you're very welcome to this part of the day. Certainly is my favourite part when we connect into Canada to our colleagues over in Canada. And we're delighted to be joined by the two ambassadors, the ambassador of Ireland to Canada and the ambassador for Canada to Ireland. So with further ado, and actually I'll just say hello to Tara as well. Tara's on the screen here. Tara's from the cable station in Newfoundland, so at Heart's Content. So Tara, you're very welcome. But Eamon, I'll hand over to you, and you're going to do a greeting for us.
Yeah, greetings from Ottawa, from the other side of the Atlantic. Different form of technology, but of course we're probably zooming along an optic fiber cable. So we're still doing it the Victorian way, because as you know, satellite technology never really caught on in the way that people had assumed. But I want to say congratulations to everybody on the committee on both sides of the Atlantic for progressing it through UNESCO. It's an incredible project. And I also think to reflect as well on the kind of the Irish dimension to it, and I've been reading about Cyrus Field, the businessman who put this consortium together that made it happen. I mean, it's an incredible feat of vision in a way. America's just come out of the American Civil War. Without the Civil War, the cable may have been laid earlier, but it took a lot of effort and a vision by Cyrus Field. And part of that vision was his belief that joining the kind of the Anglophone world of Britain and Western Europe to the Anglophone emerging giant of the United States as well as Canada was going to change the world. And I think he understood that. And sometimes, and I've been thinking about this, we sometimes think about the Atlantic, and we reduce it to NATO or shipping lines or cables. But in fact, the transatlantic relationship is hugely globally powerful. You take France and Britain, who are both survivors of Roman conquest. They create their own empires, and then they create mirror images of themselves in North America. And this becomes hugely consequential. The great one of the great strategists in the 19th century was the Duke of Wellington, a man born in Dublin from Trim. And he was a strategic visionary, but he saw that North America was the key to continued British global hegemony. But it actually turned out that he was right in a sense, because it's the help of the United States and Canada that win 2 world wars for Britain and France, and have helped to make English the globally dominant language. So the cable is just a symbol of a hugely consequential, multi-dimensional relationship across the Atlantic. And that's why I think it's so important. And it's so transformative. It's often been noted, but worth saying again, that Queen Victoria learned about the assassination of President Lincoln after, I think, 10 days. With the cable, she would have learned about it in a matter of hours. And this speed changed everything. It changed the nature of markets. Up until the cable, the packet of information about the London Stock Exchange was raced across the Atlantic and down to Montreal and Boston and New York. And then with the cable, you could suddenly have these prices. It changed military affairs. You could have information about the movement of armies. It changed political affairs. Gone were the days when a political message could take months to get back to imperial headquarters, even years. There was a famous incident where a prime minister said, if we don't hear from our ambassador by next year, we'll have to send somebody looking for him, because so the cable really is incredibly consequential, and worth celebrating. I have to say also, one of the highlights of my visit, my time in Canada, was the visit to the cable station. Great to see Tara there. The cable station at Heart's Content is absolutely fabulous. They've done a brilliant job on it. It's got the equipment there. It is so brilliantly done in terms of explaining, which we often don't think about, but exactly what happened in the cable station when the electric signal came in. You've 2 guys in a darkened room watching a flashing light and decoding it. That's what's going on until it's succeeded by more technology. But the level of innovation that was required, the level of determination and engineering to make the cable happen, I think is astonishing. And the final point as well is that we have to remember that when Cyrus Field went to, the cable could have gone to Nova Scotia, but Cyrus Field apparently went to St. John's in Newfoundland. And legend has it that he was up in the famous St. John's Basilica, built by Bishop Michael Fleming from Ireland. And the successor to Michael Fleming, the man, in fact, who finished the decorative part of the Basilica, was Bishop Mullock from Limerick. And apparently it was Mullock that took Cyrus Field aside and said, don't be sending the cable to Nova Scotia, send it to Newfoundland. which is a great story, probably true, I'd say. And again, an example of how well placed the Irish were in Canada. And so the cable and the link between us is hugely significant. I wish you all the best. I want to say hello to Nancy as well. Great to see you there. I'm very envious, Nancy, that you're actually down there and I'm being beamed in. But we have a great partnership going, and I think the relationship between Ireland and Canada has enormous potential, symbolised by this cable, this cooperation, and this annual event. So thanks, Leonard, for inviting me again and for all that you do to advance this fantastic project.
Thanks, Eamon. And with that, Ambassador Smythe.
Thanks very much. Great to see you there, my friend Eamon. Hello to Canada. Hello to Tara. I actually haven't been to Heart's Content, but this is now my third time in Valencia, so you can see where my loyalties lie. I like the story about the 1 year. If they haven't heard from me, it's tempting to find myself not going back to Dublin. It's such a lovely place here. So a warm thanks to Leonard for having me back again. Hard to say no to. And also to Mary Rose, to Kerry Kerry County Council, John, to the Heritage friends that we've been working with, also John, and especially to the community. People have been talking today about the wonderful tour they've had around the island, which I had the privilege of having with none other tour guide than Michael Lynn, and it was a fantastic opportunity to look around, and the foundation really has to be congratulated for all the work that you've done. It is really magical what you have here. And congratulations on the exhibit. And I think, Eamon, lots of what you've been talking about is exactly the kinds of stories that are told here on the walls in this fantastic and very historic building. Leo talked about Connection being an Irish superpower. And I think that's right. And some of you will know that the Epic Museum is one of my favorite places in Dublin, which of course stands for Every Person is Connected. And it's the first question that I always get. Where are you from? Where are you people from? Because people want to make that connection. And this community is really an example of that superpower, in effect. And I think really what we've heard today is that those connections between Valencia and Heart's Content are as strong as they've ever been. And we've seen that over the years. And I think we're actually maybe marking a 10-year anniversary, it seems, since the gathering that happened in 2013. And I think this has really been about partnership. And so the government of Newfoundland and Labrador and the representatives from Valencia, from Kerry County Council, from Parks Canada, and the Irish National Monument Service and Heritage Ireland have really been hard at work, as Leonard talked about this morning, to recognize both those sites. And as Eamon and Leonard and all the speakers have talked about, really this historic place where global communications started, and really was for its time, and I think really remains that peak of human innovation. And so I think the developments you've gone over well in terms of what's happened even since last year, and the wonderful news of the site here going on to Ireland's list, and hearing Minister Darragh O'Brien. John, your minister announced this, I think was certainly a highlight, certainly of my time here, being one of three projects. I invited him to come to my Canada Day event at Epic, and I did that just for Leonard, to make Leonard happy, and indeed he did talk about this very project. And I think the community engagement, the government engagement, the political engagement is all really critical to keeping the momentum going on this. And certainly the connections have also continued to flourish by some visits that we've had here, including from the political level, with Minister Stephen Crocker here, Minister of Tourism, Culture, Arts and Recreation here in September 2020. And you're probably going to talk a bit about the MOU that was signed between Newfoundland and Kerry, and I think that's really important in terms of next steps I do my best to keep in touch, and I think ADM Jerry Osmond may or may not be joining us at some point, but with him and with Parks Canada, he's very excited to be receiving the delegation that will go over in August to keep the work going, and really the technical work as well as the momentum going. And as he has said to me, these visits are really a critical milestone towards the goal of UNESCO World Heritage. But it's also really an opportunity, I think, for Heart's Content, and I'm going to pass over to Canada, or Leonard will do so with colleagues that are here, but really to reciprocate that generosity that's been shown to all the visitors from Newfoundland and Labrador and beyond, and myself many times now, and to give a chance for you to see a bit of that Heart's Content in Canadian hospitality. So I wish you all well, and turn it over, and looking forward to those updates from the experts here. Thanks, Leonard.
So thanks, Nancy. That's great, and thanks again to Eamon. It's always fabulous to have you both connect in, and I must say it's there's a, it's a real pleasure to work on the Canadian side of the project, and I think there's a real warmth. I think I've said this before. There's a real warmth between Ireland and Canada that is growing over the last number of years, particularly as a number of young people from here are now having such a fantastic life in Canada. And I know there's people in the room here who have lots of kids have kids, not lots of kids, have kids in Canada. So without further ado, I'd like to move on then to our next section, which is we're going to get updates on the UNESCO projects from both sides of the pond. And to do this, I'm going to invite Councillor Norma Moriarty, who is Cathaoirleach of the Kerry Municipal District. I called it Kildare earlier, all the K's. So Norma, please, I'll hand it over to you. And I think we're going to cover Heart's Content first.
So Jerry. Oh, Tara, are you deputising for Jerry?
Yes, but I'm not well versed on the UNESCO situation, so I'm just here to bring greetings on behalf of Jerry and Minister Crocker.
Perfect, very good. Thank you. You're very welcome, Tara. We're delighted to have you. And I just want to make a comment about our two diplomats that have spoken first. Neither one of them mentioned the fact that we lost to Canada in the soccer during the week. And fair play to their diplomacy skills. We do appreciate that. Thank you. But anyway,
Both teams played their hardest.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very good, they did. It was a great game. Tara, I suppose, look, basically, I've never been to Heart's Content myself. Many people haven't here. I've no doubt you will see a lot of us over the next number of years. Can you talk to us a bit about I suppose, what you feel will be the importance of this project, to Heart's Content?
So I've been here for 15 years now, and it's always been something that's been on our radar, and we've always talked about, maybe one day we'll be in a UNESCO site. We're actually, now it seems like it's coming to fruition. I'm happy to be a part of that project. And I think really what we will see here in Heart's Content will be the notoriety of the exhibit that we have, and to be able to say we've made the UNESCO designation, and sort of, I guess, the respect that comes with having that designation when it comes to the type of visitors who will be coming here, the people who will be seeking us out, and the style of exhibit that we have here as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. And one of the questions I was going to ask, Jerry, and it would be probably unfair to you, but you might just, as a Canadian and a proud Canadian, you might be aware of this. Leonard, I think, has described you in the past as having a black belt in acquiring UNESCO status. Can you maybe give some tips on how to do that? What do you think has made Canada so successful in its record in relation to the status?
To be honest with you, I can't really speak for the country, but I can speak for the province. So Newfoundland has a great amount of UNESCO sites, and one of them is now Mistaken Point, which is one of the largest fossil beds at that time. And it just seems to be, I guess, our old history and how the centuries that people have lived here in Newfoundland and the type of history that we have that makes it unique. And that's what UNESCO is about. It's about unique sites and things that are different to other sites, and they stand out.
Thank you, Tara. Thank you very much for that. Okay, I do appreciate that. Thank you. Lovely. I suppose, look, greetings to you. And you will be you'll be meeting quite a number of people in a couple of weeks' time. They promise to be in their best behaviour.
I'm very looking forward to, I've spent quite a bit of time in organizing the reception and also what we will be doing here while the delegation arrives in Heart's Content. So we have a very full itinerary for the time that they'll be here. Some of it is business and some of it will be fun. And we hope to have a really great time with everyone. And I look forward to meeting everybody that I see in emails all the time, but I never have a face to the name. And to be able to have that personal connection will be amazing. So I look forward to seeing you guys in a couple of weeks.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Tara, very, very much indeed. Thank you for that. Very good. Does that bring us to the two Johnnies? Okay. Leonard's words, might I repeat? And for those of you who aren't aware of who the two Johnnies are, they're a rather irreverent duo on radio, and they're good fun, to be fair to them. So the pressure is on now. We're going to begin with a couple of questions, if that does. And I know John Griffin has a presentation. John, do you want to do the presentation first, or do you want to do the couple of questions first? We'll do the presentation. Perfect.
I'll go through this fairly quickly because most of you are familiar with the story anyway. It began 10 years ago here, actually in the Ride Hotel, it began 10 years ago with the Valentia cable gathering of the ancestors of those who actually laid the cable and those who worked in the station for over 100 years here, almost 100 years here, back in the 19th to 20th centuries. But this project came out of that, an interest in actually seeking global recognition for what was achieved on Valentia. And it was led by the Valentia Island Development Company. And Kerry County Council supported the initiative, as did many others. I didn't want to be listening in case I'd leave somebody out, but we all know, I can see Sean, other people here, and, ambassadors, state agencies, the government, private companies, BT who are supporting the event here this weekend, and Intel. But the motivation behind it was, a collapse really of the economy here following the closure of the cable station in 1966. It never fully recovered. And the Valentia Island Development Company and its chairman, Anthony O'Connell, sought to get this global recognition and the benefits that would accrue from it then, both in terms of visitor numbers, but also in terms of folks on the island that would hopefully follow. I've just summarised them there: create employment and create economic growth for an area of rural Ireland that was in decline. Maybe not unique from that point of view, but unique from Valentia, that it had this unique selling point, which was world leader, effectively. For UNESCO World Heritage inscription, you need three things, maybe more, but certainly the site must be of global importance, not just of local or regional importance. It must possess outstanding universal value and have authenticity and integrity. Different to the other sites, we have two World Heritage sites in the Republic of Ireland and one in Northern Ireland, but this site, the ensemble of cable is transatlantic cable is unique in the sense that it's an industrial heritage site in Ireland, and that's a place where people work and live next to the site, and that'll continue. But then we had to, this is where we came in, the council and the department as well, to support the initiative. We had to demonstrate that this site, this group of sites, the ensemble of sites, possess this outstanding universal value, and we commissioned a number of reports. The first was the Gillespie report, 1 and 2, with the support of the MTU and Intel back in 2014 and 2016. Then the department commissioned the LOTS report, it's called. And then finally, during COVID, we used COVID to assemble under the chairmanship of Donald de Cogan, the leading expert in the transatlantic cable. Donald brought a group of international experts in different fields to really reinforce the case for Valentia. It's called the Huerta report. And this has been used, it was the main lever actually to guarantee the site of the ensemble was placed on the Irish tentative list. Canada was already ahead of us. They had already had Heart's Content on the Canadian tentative list through the good efforts of our colleague Jerry Osmond there. So, as regards the Valentia side of the ensemble, the Gillespie report identified 4 sites. Ballycarbery, where the 57 cable landed. The 58 cable, the first message building in the Slate Yard, where the groundbreaking first transmission was made in August of 1858, albeit for a short period, just 3 weeks. Then there was the landing site, the telegraph field for the 1865 and 66 cable. And then the other site, of course, the cable station here, which was the hub of global communications for almost a century. Unfortunately, the Ballycarbery site no longer exists because of erosion. It's disappeared. So there are just the 3 sites remaining. And we're very fortunate in that, through the good offices, I must acknowledge that of Micheál Lyon here. He succeeded after the untimely death of Anthony O'Connell as chairman of VITCO. Micheál sought and approached his friends at the Palmer family who owned the cable station, and the Palmer family gifted the cable station back to the community so that this project could proceed. Because before you can proceed with a World Heritage project, you must actually own or control the site. So that's why the cable station was progressed. And we can see Mrs. Palmer handing over the keys of the cable station to Norma Foley, who was the Cathaoirleach or Mayor of Kerry at the time in 2018. She's gone on to other things since then. She still remains a great supporter. And we secured funding then for the beginning of the work on the conservation of the station through the Department of Community and Rural Development. Minister Heather Humphreys visiting there. And we've had a lot of support, political and community support. Minister Pascal Dunne has been a great supporter of the project. So there are 2 ends of the cable. We have the eastern terminus here in Valentia, and we have the western terminus, which is in Heart's Content. And that's one of the things we reached out to our colleagues in the government, the provincial government of Newfoundland, very fortunate to link up very early on with Jerry Osmond. And we started to build up relationships and cooperations. I mean, the 2 ambassadors mentioned the forthcoming visit by the Kerry delegation to Newfoundland and Heart's Content in next month. Our Heart's Content colleagues have been over here 3 times, so this is our first time. I think we deserve to make that return visit to them. Then we're very fortunate. I mean, I'm kind of skipping through because lots happened. Sometimes 2 steps forward, 1 step backward. But then eventually, this time last year, John Knightley's Department Minister, Darragh O'Brien, announced that Valentia was going to be just one of 3 sites on the Irish Tentative List World Heritage. There's still a very long journey to go, John will explain shortly, but this was a major milestone. And those who stuck with it, I mean, you know, sometimes I've been involved in a lot of projects, and as I say, you know, projects, a lot of them don't fail, just people give up. And we've been on this journey for 10 years. It's probably likely going to take another 7 or 8 years before it comes to completion. But it's continuous persistence. You're gaining new insights. You're making new friends. You're availing new opportunities, because this project has already opened a lot of opportunities for Valentia and will continue to do so. And similarly for Heart's Content. So last September we had a visit from Minister Steve Crocker, and previous to that, the communities of Heart's Content and Valentia signed an MOU to work together. Then last September, Kerry County Council and the Government of Newfoundland and Labrador signed an MOU to work together. And the third one is going to be signed in due course between the Irish Government and Canadian Government. Again, committing one another to work on the project to avail of all the different opportunities that arise because of it. Economic, social, educational. I mean, the cable sites are just one part of it. This is a much wider project. The whole idea is that the communities will benefit from this project. This is why we're giving it so much time. It isn't just because there's a UNESCO sign up in the outside here. I mean, there must be practical benefits for both communities of this. There's the cultural side, there's the conservation of the building, but then there's the benefits to the kids. I had a slide there of the Minister visiting the local school. I just didn't want to include it, for GDPR reasons. But that's what we're about. That's what we're trying to do. That's what the council is about. That's why so much effort, well beyond the 9 to 5. I mean, we have councillors actively involved. We have staff members, a number of my staff colleagues here working on the project. And the members of the community here that meet here, the Village Island Development Company, what they've done, what they've tried to do, reopening the lighthouse, the cable station, the tourist office, the energy project. I mean, these people deserve support, and we're going to be delighted to give that support. I think the role of the foundation as well, which was formed in 2016 with Leonard as chairman, and the fact that people who are very busy people with tenuous enough connections with Valentia came in behind the project and gave their support, gave their resources, advice, connections, linkages. I mean, it's just been fantastic. So it has. It's just been wonderful. So just where the project is at present, we're in relation to the cable station. The council commissioned Scott Talon Walker Architects with Carrick Conservation, with Peter Cox of Carrick here, to restore, conserve, adapt the cable station, bring it back to its condition that it was back in the middle of the 19th century. And that work, it's painstaking work, because it isn't just your normal renovation. This is going to be a potential World Heritage Site. So every step of the way, every hole in every wall, every lock, every light fitting must meet a particular standard. And that work is continuing. It's meticulous work, painstaking work. And I must say I'm very impressed. We've worked on, my colleague is David Doyle here, Brian Hickey, who've been working and directing this project. But it's really painstaking work. But they're producing some wonderful drawings, proposals, adaptations. I mean, this is the foyer outside there. We're going to remove the false ceiling there in the foyer. You'll have lift access as well, in a way that it won't compromise the beautiful staircase there and the hall. The factory will continue in use, and downstairs you'll have the exhibition space expanded slightly, and then upstairs you have the innovation hub, which will employ 50 people. I mean, it's a wonderful place to be working in a World Heritage Site, so it is. And we'll have fibre, hopefully, in here within 12 months. So, as well as that, another colleague of mine, Siobhan Griffin, I'm sure Siobhan here, has been working, directing a socio-economic plan for the island, of the wider plan, beyond the cable station, using the cable project as well to generate economic opportunities for the island. So that's at draft stage. I think there's going to be a public launch of this. The community have been involved in every step of this. This is the community's plan. The council has only been leading out it, and with Bill Thorne of Exodia, but it's the people's plan. And the people will have a wider involvement now as the process goes forward. John Knightley will explain shortly in the whole World Heritage process. That's, we call it, I've gone through most of that, but it's just a timeline about it. But the second part of the World Heritage journey begins now. So I'll ask John maybe to take it from there. John Knightley, he's head of the World Heritage Unit in the Department of Housing, Local Government and Heritage.
Good evening, everyone. Great pleasure to be here. I'm not going to take up too much of your time. As John mentioned, I'm the head of the World Heritage Unit in the National Monument Service. The unit has been up and running for about the last 3 years. To put it in context, the last World Heritage sites in Ireland were inscribed in the 1990s. That was Skellig Michael and Brunaboyne in County Meath. And basically nothing has happened in terms of World Heritage since. We've had the tentative list, which has been renewed a few times, but no site has moved. There's various reasons for that, mostly economic and political. Well, we're in a changed Ireland now, and since those sites were inscribed in the 1990s, World Heritage has changed considerably. Whereas back then it was very much led by the state and central government. The whole ethos of UNESCO inscription now is very much community-based. So we're embarking on a process here with 3 tentative list sites. This one, the Royal Sites of Ireland, and the Sligo Neolithic Landscape. And we're going to adopt a different approach in how we progress these. And this is based on UNESCO's own recommendations. It'll be very much led at community level. And it's vitally important that the community is involved in the process from the very start. The purpose of central government is to facilitate the process. It's not our job to dictate or cast the directions on how it should run. It's very much to facilitate the process. That said, there's 5 key players involved in this particular site. There's Kerry County Council, Newfoundland and Labrador. There's the two state parties, that's the Irish government and the Canadian government, and then there's UNESCO. So it's a 5-way relationship. So it is complicated. It won't be easy. There's a very set process for progressing World Heritage that's set out by UNESCO. All things going to plan, it takes roughly 5 years. The first major milestone will be what's called a preliminary assessment, which we hope to achieve in about 2 years' time. And that's when UNESCO formally signifies that this has potential to be a World Heritage Site. So it being on the tentative list is fantastic, and a lot of time and effort has gone into that, but the real work starts now. And we hope over the course of the coming months to formalise the relationship between the department and Kerry County Council and ourselves and Parks Canada, and formally commence the nomination process. The first step in that is appointing a World Heritage expert who will lead the project from an international level, and then putting in place a structure at local level here in Kerry to drive the project forward. And that's key to the success of this. It has to be led at local level. And that preliminary, what that means in essence is there's a project team and a project manager put in place here in Kerry with the support of the department. And they'll drive that at this level, and that will be mirrored on the other side of the Atlantic by the Canadian side. And then, as I say, we have set out a procedure. We've done a lot of work in the last year, the department, in setting out what is required. Because when we inscribed UNESCO, Skellig Michael and Bruna Boyne back in the 1990s, World Heritage was a very different beast. The operational guidelines have changed a lot since then. And therefore, we found ourselves in a position that we had to go back to the drawing board. How is it done now? We've looked at best international practice. We've spoken to other countries. I was in Paris 2 weeks ago speaking to UNESCO themselves on the way forward. And we'll be publishing in the next few weeks official guidelines on setting out how Ireland progresses all its tentative list sites, current tentative list sites, and hopefully future ones. So it's an exciting process. We're kind of entering into a slightly unknown space because, as I say, it's been such a long time since we've done this. It is going to take time. There will be challenges. The critical thing that needs to be done first is draft what's called a Statement of Outstanding Universal Value. And that essentially is identifying what is it about this particular site that makes it of global significance. And that is the critical first statement. And everything else will flow from that, including the conservation of this building, the conservation of the Slate Yard, and any other associated sites. So that is the critical piece of work that has to be done. As I said, there is an awful lot of work to be done on the technical side. I won't bore you with the details. But eventually what goes into UNESCO is what's called the nomination dossier. It's an extremely long document made up of numerous parts, including a state of conservation, a management plan, statement of outstanding universal value. We'll have to do what's called a comparative analysis, where we'll have to go around the world and look at other sites that are similar, and then make the argument to UNESCO why this site is unique. So there's an awful lot of work to be done at state level. So it's critically important that over the next 6 months we put in place the structures at local level, at central government level, and then across the Atlantic to drive this forward. And hopefully, as I say, in 2 years we'll reach the preliminary assessment stage, which will be a cause for a great celebration, because then it's basically UNESCO saying, yes, this definitely has everything it needs, and off you go and progress. And then, as I say, what will happen then is the nomination dossier will be submitted to UNESCO. It's evaluated by ICOMOS, which is an advisory body. And then it's one of 3 options. They'll either send it back to us and say, guys, you need to do some more work. they'll say, no, thanks, this is not a runner, and hopefully they will say, yes, this is definitely a runner, and we'll put you on the World Heritage List. So look, there's a lot of work ahead, and as I say, we're embarking on it. It's very exciting. There's a lot of challenges in putting all the strands together. It's not going to be easy. The department has two other sites to drive forward as well, which bring with them their own complexities and difficulties. So, we have to pull it all together and drive forward. But I suppose the message the department kind of wants to set out today is, look, we're behind it 100%. It's a new model for Ireland in terms of it is and has to be community-led. And I suppose from a government point of view, we're used to managing heritage assets from central government and managing by the OPW, who do an excellent job. This is different. World Heritage is a slightly different thing. It's a different situation where it really involves the community, and the community are involved in every aspect of it, including the management of the site going forward. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, John. And both of you, actually, the presentation was very good, and that was genuinely really informative, because the process and how it was outlined and so on, and the timelines. And yes, they're indicative timelines. Obviously, it depends on how quickly these things can happen and so forth. But it's value, and like the fact that it's going to be community, led, driven, bottom up. They're all the key things. We had our municipal district meeting here this morning, and Micheál Lyon addressed the meeting at the outset, which was brilliant, and that was the message that Micheál put across very strongly as well. This is about the future of this community, mirrored, no doubt, with the future of Heart's Content. And while I've never set foot there, I've no doubt the challenges are similar in terms of socioeconomic development there. Probably trying to retain your young people and have a future, that the way of life can be protected and people can have that good quality of life. So the importance of this, I think, is accepted, widespread. How we achieve it is linking back to what was said this morning by several of the speakers. That superpower, the ability to make relationships and connect and to communicate and to overcome those challenges. And look, I just very briefly want to say, because Leonard is probably someone who organises all of these things and probably doesn't get thanked, but I've sat at several of these as a spectator, and I've never failed to go away but be inspired. And I don't use the term lightly. It was the speakers, every one of you today, it was wonderful and really very different, all very interesting. And, I've gone away, genuinely enthused, reinvigorated with the work that we do. And like this morning, we were talking about high ideas. We're also talking about public toilets and potholes and roads and the things that councillors talk about. But it's all about development. And I just want to say thank you very much for the work that you're doing, sincerely, because I get to live here all year round and hopefully will benefit from it. And my community will benefit from it. And we'll all work towards it. So, Gurmil Mahagat.
No, thanks very much for those kind words. And as I've always said, it's a pleasure and a privilege for myself and Mary Rose and other members of the foundation to contribute here in what was a project which, back to Leah's theme on connectiveness, it just seems to connect people, this particular project, and for reasons that I've never quite understood, but it does seem to connect and inspire, and maybe because of what it represents in so many different ways. Perhaps that's why. Anyway, folks, we're done for this particular session. Thanks again to you, for those of you who came along today, stuck with us for the afternoon. Thanks to the hotel. I think they've been supplying us with teas and coffees, keep us going, to Vince and his team. We're going to go over now and enjoy dinner there, I think, later on. Lucien, thank you for your team here for getting this lovely facility set up. Brian, for all the tech. It is quite complicated because we're trying to do teams with video and on-site and off-site. So thanks for bearing with us, everybody. I think it worked quite well. Eamon, again, thanks for calling in from all the way across the water. And look after Canada for us. We'll be over a couple of weeks. But really looking forward to that, to getting on the ground there. And with that, we'll call it. We'll see you all for dinner at 8 o'clock. We gather at 8 for dinner at 8:30. So we'll see you in the Royal. Okay, thanks, folks.